Welcome back to Dukascopy TV. I'm Elaine Stencil and I'm joined in the studio now by our regular guest, Jean-François Owczarczak, who's the director with Management Joint Trust. They are the editor of fingraphs.com. Jean-François, you're very welcome.
Hey, hi Elaine. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. So we're seeing that some of the trends from 2013 could be reversing. Do you think this will happen?
Well, to see that, I've put the long-term charts on our standard mosaic,
yes,
which we've created. Just to quickly outline the assets that we have here. We have Euro dollar, cable, Australian dollar, gold, dollar Swiss, dollar yen, 3 months S&P future, and 3 months future on the 30-year Treasury bonds. Now, if you see, we had a bull trend in the euro, bull trend in cable, downtrend in Australian dollar and gold, a correction down, strong correction down in bonds, still an uptrend on the S&P 500, an uptrend on dollar yen, and sort of a sideways on US dollar Swiss. Now we've seen a slight reversal of this trend since the beginning of the year, a bit of a weakness on equity markets during January, rates starting to resume a downtrend, gold initiating a bit of a pickup. So let's try to see if this is sustainable. So let's move down to the daily charts. So the weekly charts we count in quarters. As for the investment horizon, the daily charts we count in months. Now, what we could see is that most of these trends are still in place. And so the corrections which have been initiated haven't been strong enough yet to change them. The only one where you would see a slight reversal is on the 30-year Treasury bonds future, where we've entered a corrective up move. It's not impulsive up, it's not a true reversal yet, but it is a sign of strength here for the Treasury bonds and a bit of a resume downtrend for yields. Now let's take every single one of these assets individually, and let's focus on euro dollar first. Now what we're showing here is basically what we call markets in 3D. On each single chart we show 3 investment horizons. You can see the perspective here. The 1 box is the long term, the 2 box is the medium term, and the 3 box is the short term. You could find these 3 boxes here below: long term, medium term, short term. Well, at the moment the euro is still in an uptrend on our weeklies, and that uptrend is coming out of a base. It's still not very strong to my opinion, but it is still in a bull, and Fingraphs is also there to avoid you doing too much wishful thinking. So at the moment we're still in a bull, and let's consider it as a bull. The dailies are also still in the bull. Now we're seeing much more of our mean reverting indicators starting to signal that we could be entering a zone of weakness.
Yes.
Now you can see that our risk index is in the overbought, that our envelopes have been touching each other twice already, maybe a third time coming, and that our targets were pretty much fulfilled, where they should have signaled an exhaustion. So still an uptrend over the long term, in a sort of an exhaustion phase over the daily, hitting against a strong resistance, and having initiated a correction down. And this correction down we can see here on the hourly, and it's slowly getting oversold again. So we would expect that maybe over the next week or so we should have an intermediate bottom and start a resume uptrend. Now still in a consolidation phase, so we don't expect a wild move from there, but at least a corrective move up. That's starting midweek and probably towards the mid next week. Now going back to the mosaic, sterling is pretty much the same story. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Dollar Swiss is pretty much the reverse. It is also in an exhaustion phase on the daily. It is correcting up, and the hourlies are moving up. Dollar yen is maybe a bit different. It's been frothed by Abenomics last year quite a lot. Yes. But we could see that the weekly are still showing us some potential to the upside over the next few quarters. Pretty much reached an exhaustion phase on the dailies here with some stress and also an overbought situation, and the correction down similar to what we see on euro dollar here, slowly getting to a zone where we can see a reaction up. Okay. Starting this week until mid next week.
And later this week we're going to see the ECB press conference and US unemployment figures. What are we expecting from this? Well,
up to now the ECB has been quite dovish since the beginning of the year, but I think the main focus is really going to be on the economic numbers in the US. There's been quite a lot of stress in emerging markets over the last week or so. Is it because of tapering, or is it an independent event, or which one is influencing the other? Now the big question is, can this emerging market weakness drag down the whole growth in the economy? And maybe it's good to focus on the S&P 500 here to see how the trends are being sustained.
We know the markets closed down at the end of the month, last month.
Yeah, well, it is usually if you have a bad January, statistics say that you should have a bad year, but it's only statistics and it doesn't work all the time either.
Okay, yeah.
So let's just focus on here, and as we can see, the weekly charts on the S&P are still heading up. Now they have done what we would have expected as in the potential, the price of potential. So they're in expensive territory. If it's not finished, there's probably not much more to go, at least towards before we get an important intermediate correction. Now, if we look at the dailies, we could have a similar analysis here. We're in pretty much of a stress situation here with the envelopes touching each other, the risk index being in the overbought, and the targets having been fulfilled. Now, for now, it hasn't turned yet. If you look at the long term and the medium term, they're still in a bull trend. So, without any wishful thinking, we will focus on what we see here, and the message is pretty clear here. It's telling us potential intermediate top in an uptrend. So at the moment, we would keep our stance in saying that we think economic recovery is still in the cards, and that the trends for now on the weekly and the daily, the long term and the medium term, are still up, even if it's quite an overpriced situation, yes. And that the correction that we see seen at the moment is mostly intermediary. Now, we're also coming, as we saw in the euro, as we saw in dollar yen, towards an intermediate bottom, probably during the week. So we could expect a rebound probably towards mid and this week.
Jean-François, thank you very much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for having me again.
And that's all we have time for now, but do check back for further updates and interviews from the TV team. Bye for now.